Michael Jordan finds his old high school bus driver homeless. His next move shocks the world. Michael Jordan had always felt a pull to his hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina. It was here, in the small, tight-knit community, that he had learned the values that shaped him into the man he was today, values like determination, hard work, and respect. As a global basketball icon, he had traveled the world, seen the highest peaks of fame and fortune, but there was something about coming home that always grounded him. It reminded him of his roots. Today, Michael was in town for a charity event, a fundraiser for underprivileged youth in the area. He had spent the morning meeting with local leaders, talking about the importance of education and opportunity, and now he was taking a brief break from the official schedule to do something more personal. Revisit some of the places that had been pivotal in his youth. As he stood outside his old high school, a flood of memories rushed back. The sound of basketballs bouncing on the courts, the smell of the gymnasium, the roar of the crowd during his games. He could almost hear his coaches yelling at him to push harder, be better, to never back down. But one memory in particular stuck out: his old school bus driver, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson had been a constant figure in Michael's early years. Every morning, he was there at the bus stop, a kind, steady presence, offering a wave and a smile as he drove Michael and the other kids to school. It wasn't just the bus rides that stood out, it was Mr. Thompson's quiet wisdom. He always had a word of encouragement or a piece of advice. Michael could still remember how, in those early years, Mr. Thompson had believed in him even before he truly believed in himself. "I wonder where Mr. Thompson is now," Michael muttered to himself, his thoughts drifting to the kind man who had been a fixture in his life for so many years. As if on cue, a local man passed by, recognizing Michael immediately. The man was a familiar face from the community, someone Michael had seen at various events in town over the years. He smiled and waved, then approached him. "Hey, Michael. It's good to see you here," the man said, his tone friendly but casual. "You know, I heard about your visit today, and it's great to see you giving back. It's been a while." Michael smiled, shaking the man's hand. "Thanks. It's good to be back," he replied. "I was just thinking about my old high school bus driver, Mr. Thompson. Do you know where he is these days?" The man's face darkened a little, his eyes shifting as if he was unsure whether to bring it up. After a pause, he spoke, his voice low. "You know, Michael, I'm afraid Mr. Thompson's not doing too well these days. I heard he's fallen on hard times. He's living on the streets now. It's a shame, really." Michael's heart sank. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Mr. Thompson, the man who had driven him to school every day, always with a smile and a word of encouragement, was now homeless? "Wait," Michael said, his voice tight with disbelief. "Are you serious? Mr. Thompson? He's homeless?" The man nodded solemnly. "Yeah. He lost his job a few years ago, and things just spiraled from there. I don't know all the details, but I heard he's been living in one of the shelters downtown." Michael stood there, momentarily stunned. He had so many memories of Mr. Thompson, the man who had been there for him during some of the most formative years of his life. To think that he was now in such dire straits was unfathomable. "Where exactly?" Michael asked, his voice urgent. "Down by 3rd and Main," the man replied. "It's not a nice area, but that's where he's been staying." Without another word, Michael thanked the man and quickly walked to his car. His mind was racing, trying to process the information. Mr. Thompson had always been a symbol of steadiness for him, a constant in a world that often felt chaotic. The thought of him being out on the streets, struggling to survive, was something Michael couldn't just ignore. He needed to find him, to help him, somehow. As he drove through the familiar streets of Wilmington, Michael's thoughts turned inward. He had built an empire on his ability to overcome challenges, to rise above adversity. But he knew better than anyone that success wasn't always the answer to everything. Sometimes, the world could turn on you in the blink of an eye, and no amount of fame or wealth could shield you from the harsh realities of life. Michael turned onto 3rd Street, the area where the man had said Mr. Thompson was staying. It was a part of town he hadn't visited in years, and as he drove through the streets, he couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and frustration. The neighborhood had changed, and not for the better. Graffiti covered the walls, the streets were littered with debris, and the buildings seemed run down, as if the city had forgotten about this part of town. He parked his car and stepped out, taking in the scene around him. The air was thick with the weight of the past, and the sounds of the city felt muted, as though the struggles of the people here had been drowned out by the noise of the world moving on. But Michael wasn't ready to just turn away. He had come here to find Mr. Thompson, to help. As he walked down the street, he kept his eyes open for any sign of the old bus driver. After a few minutes of walking, he spotted a man sitting on the corner, wrapped in a tattered coat. His face was weathered, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. Michael's heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Thompson," he called, his voice tentative. The man looked up slowly, and for a moment, there was no recognition in his eyes. Then, as if something clicked, the old man's face softened. "Michael?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Is that you? My God, you've grown up so much." Michael's throat tightened, and he couldn't hide the emotion that swelled inside him. There was no denying it. The man sitting in front of him was the same one who had driven him to school every day, who had given him encouragement when he needed it most. "It's me, Mr. Thompson," Michael said, kneeling down in front of him. "I can't believe this. What happened? How did this happen to you?" Mr. Thompson looked away for a moment, his eyes distant. "Life, Michael. Life has a way of knocking you down when you least expect it." Michael's heart ached as he watched the man who had once been a guiding light in his life, now struggling to survive. It was a stark reminder that even those who helped others in the past could fall victim to the cruel realities of life. But Michael wasn't just here to talk. He wasn't going to walk away and forget about Mr. Thompson. The next steps were clear. Michael knew he had the power to change this man's life, just as Mr. Thompson had once shaped his. And he was going to make sure he did. The scene felt surreal. Michael Jordan had always been known for his tenacity on the basketball court, his unwavering focus, and his ability to rise above any challenge. Yet, now, standing in front of Mr. Thompson, the man who had helped guide him through his early years with nothing more than kindness and encouragement, Michael felt a deep sense of humility. The weathered man sitting before him seemed a far cry from the jovial figure who had driven him to school every day, a steady presence who had given Michael the foundation of discipline and respect. Mr. Thompson's eyes were tired, his face etched with the hardship of years spent on the streets. His clothes were worn, the edges of his jacket frayed, and his shoes, though once polished, were now scuffed and torn. The man had once been a symbol of stability to young Michael, and now, as Michael looked at him, he couldn't help but feel the weight of their shared history. "Michael," Mr. Thompson repeated softly, his voice still carrying the same warmth that Michael remembered. "It's been so long. I can't believe you found me. You've come a long way." Michael knelt down beside the bench where Mr. Thompson was sitting, struggling to keep his emotions in check. "I was just thinking about you," Michael said, his voice quieter than usual. "You were there for me every morning. You were always the one who believed in me before I even believed in myself. And now I find you like this." Mr. Thompson shrugged slightly, his eyes flickering toward the ground. "It's just how life goes, Michael. One minute, you're doing all right, and the next, everything falls apart. I lost my job, couldn't pay the bills, and then it just snowballed. I ended up here." There was a deep sadness in his voice, and Michael couldn't help but feel the weight of the words. To hear Mr. Thompson, a man who had been a part of his everyday routine growing up, describe how everything had spiraled out of control was like a punch to the gut. Michael, who had achieved success beyond anyone's wildest dreams, realized just how easily the same thing could happen to anyone. "You were always so steady," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't understand. How did this happen? You were the one who taught me how important it is to show up, to work hard, to stay focused. You were always there for us. How could something like this happen to you?" Mr. Thompson let out a sigh, the weight of his years apparent in his posture. "Sometimes, the world doesn't care about how hard you try. It doesn't care about the good you do for others. People forget about you once you're not useful to them anymore. I had a lot of people depend on me when I was driving that bus. They needed me to show up, and I did. But when I lost that job, everything changed. The people who I thought would be there for me weren't, and it just got harder to get back up. I wasn't prepared for it." The silence between them stretched for a moment. Michael could feel the deep sorrow in Mr. Thompson's words, but he also felt a profound sense of responsibility. He had been given so much in life, not just in terms of fame or fortune, but in values that had been instilled in him by people like Mr. Thompson. And now, standing before the man who had once been his guide, Michael knew he couldn't simply walk away. "Mr. Thompson," Michael said, his voice more resolute, "I've spent my life trying to inspire others, to show them what's possible when you push yourself. But I'm starting to realize something even more important. It's not just about individual achievement. It's about how we lift each other up. I'm not going to let you stay in this situation. You helped me when I needed it, and now it's my turn to help you." Mr. Thompson looked at him with a mix of surprise and humility. "Michael, you don't have to do that. I'm just one person, and I've made mistakes. I'm not asking for your help. I don't want to be a burden to you." Michael shook his head firmly. "You're not a burden. You were a part of my life in ways that most people can't understand. You were one of the first to show me what it meant to be reliable, to give of yourself to others. I can't just walk away from that. You don't deserve to be on the streets. You deserve a second chance." For the first time since Michael had found him, Mr. Thompson's expression softened. His eyes welled up with tears as he looked up at Michael. "I never thought someone like you would remember me, let alone help me." Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not about who I am. It's about who you were to me. You made a difference in my life, and I owe it to you to make sure you don't have to suffer alone. We all need someone sometimes, and today, I'm going to be that someone for you." There was a long pause as Mr. Thompson's emotional wall began to break down. The weight of his situation, the years spent struggling and surviving on the streets, had been unbearable. But in that moment, sitting on that street corner with Michael Jordan, someone who had once been a young boy with dreams of greatness, Mr. Thompson realized that his life might not be over. Maybe, just maybe, he had a chance to rebuild it. "I don't know what to say," Mr. Thompson said quietly, tears falling freely now. "Thank you. Thank you, Michael." Michael smiled, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride and compassion. "There's nothing to thank me for," he said softly. "You've been a part of my story, and now I'm going to make sure you have a new chapter. One that's filled with hope, not despair." As Michael stood up, ready to take action, he felt something shift within him. It wasn't just about helping Mr. Thompson, it was about changing the way he saw his own success. It wasn't about championships, endorsements, or wealth. It was about the connections we make, the people we help along the way, and the difference we can make in their lives. Today, Michael had the chance to pay back a debt, not just in money, but in the love and care he had received from a man who had once been there for him. And that, to Michael, was what true success looked like. Michael Jordan's mind raced as he left Mr. Thompson sitting on that street corner. The brief conversation had left him shaken, yet resolute. He had never imagined that the man who had once driven him to school, offering nothing but encouragement and care, would now be living on the streets, struggling with circumstances beyond his control. It hit him harder than he expected, the notion that life could change so drastically for anyone, no matter their past. As he drove back to his hotel, Michael's thoughts weren't focused on the charity event he was scheduled to attend that evening or the media interviews lined up. Instead, he found himself replaying the conversation over and over. Mr. Thompson's words echoed in his mind, "I wasn't prepared for it." Michael had always been taught to be prepared for anything. It was part of the mentality that had driven him to achieve greatness in basketball, to face every challenge with the unwavering belief that he could overcome it. But what about the challenges that weren't about preparation? What about the battles that hit without warning, the ones that no amount of talent or perseverance could shield you from? That was the kind of battle Mr. Thompson was facing. And it was a battle that Michael had never fully understood until now. When Michael arrived back at his hotel, he wasted no time. His staff could see that he was deep in thought, his usual energetic presence subdued, but he wasn't going to waste any more time thinking about what he could do. He had already decided. He picked up his phone and made a few calls, each one aimed at making a real, lasting change in Mr. Thompson's life. Within the hour, Michael had secured a meeting with one of the best rehabilitation centers in the area, a place known for helping people regain their footing after hardships like homelessness. But Michael didn't stop there. He also contacted a team of professionals to help Mr. Thompson with finding stable housing and rebuilding his life, offering him a second chance. Michael wasn't going to give him just a temporary fix. He was going to offer him the support, resources, and respect he deserved, no matter the cost. Later that evening, Michael made his way to the charity event, but his thoughts were still on Mr. Thompson. During his speech, he found himself talking not just about giving back to the community, but about the importance of compassion, empathy, and how sometimes the people we least expect to need help are the ones who need it most. The message hit home, especially after his encounter with Mr. Thompson earlier that day. The audience, unaware of the personal connection Michael had just made, still felt the sincerity in his words. As the event ended, Michael found himself standing by the entrance, watching the crowd file out. His mind was still with Mr. Thompson, but he knew that it was time to take action, and it was time for Mr. Thompson to make the decision to change his life, too. He drove back to the area where he had found Mr. Thompson earlier. The streets felt quieter now, the weight of the city's problems more apparent in the silence. As he arrived at the corner where he had left Mr. Thompson, he saw the old man again, sitting on the same bench. This time, though, there was a slight difference. Mr. Thompson looked a little lighter, his posture not as hunched as before. He looked up, recognizing Michael immediately. "Michael," he said softly, standing up slowly as if unsure what to expect. "I've got something for you," Michael said, his tone calm but filled with purpose. "I've been thinking about everything you told me, and I want to help you get back on your feet. It's time for a new chapter." Mr. Thompson's eyes filled with confusion. "Michael, I can't ask you for anything. I've been through too much." "You're not asking," Michael said, his voice firm but kind. "I'm offering. I've already set up everything you'll need. There's a rehabilitation center that specializes in helping people get back on track. They'll help you with housing, counseling, and job placement. But you have to make the decision to take that first step. I can't do it for you." Mr. Thompson took a step back, as though trying to process the enormity of what Michael was saying. You really want to help me? After everything that's happened?" Michael nodded. "I want to help you because you were there for me when I was just a kid, unsure of myself. You gave me advice, you showed up every day without fail, and you believed in me before I could believe in myself. Now it's my turn to give that back to you. But I can't do this if you're not ready to fight for yourself." There was a long silence, and Michael could see Mr. Thompson wrestling with his pride, with his own sense of defeat. But then, slowly, Mr. Thompson nodded, his expression softening. "I don't know how to thank you," he said quietly. "I didn't expect this, Michael. You didn't have to do this." "I don't need thanks," Michael replied. "But I need you to understand that you matter. You've always mattered to me. I won't let you fall through the cracks, not on my watch." As Michael drove Mr. Thompson to the rehabilitation center the next morning, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. This wasn't about a flashy donation or a quick fix to a problem. This was about restoring a man's dignity, giving him a chance to rebuild not just his life, but his hope. Michael had the ability to change lives, not just with his wealth or fame, but with his actions and his heart. When Michael dropped Mr. Thompson off at the center, they shared a quiet handshake, a moment of understanding between two men who had shared different paths, but now found themselves connected by the same belief in second chances. "You've got this," Michael said, his voice steady but encouraging. "Now it's time to take that first step." As Michael left, he glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Mr. Thompson walking into the facility, a small but noticeable change in his gait. He wasn't walking like a man defeated by life anymore. He was walking like a man who had hope again. Word of Michael Jordan's intervention spread quickly, but not in the way one might expect. In a world where celebrities are often known for their charitable donations or flashy gestures, Michael's decision to help Mr. Thompson had struck a chord in a different way. It wasn't just about the money he was offering, it was the personal, long-term commitment he had made to someone who had once been a part of his life. It was a gesture that few could have predicted, especially for a man who had already achieved so much in his life. The public reaction was swift. Headlines in local newspapers began to surface with headlines like, "Michael Jordan helps old high school bus driver, restores his life," and "A second chance, Michael Jordan's heartwarming gesture toward former bus driver." In interviews and social media posts, people praised Michael not just for his wealth or status, but for using his platform to make a difference in someone's life in a way that went beyond the surface. However, there were also some who couldn't understand the depth of Michael's gesture. Some critics questioned why he had chosen to help Mr. Thompson, a man who had been a mere bus driver in Michael's life. They asked why Michael had dedicated so much time and resources to someone who was no longer part of his daily life. Was it a publicity stunt? Did it speak to some deeper need for redemption or validation? Michael knew that people would talk, and he knew that some would never understand the connection he felt with Mr. Thompson. But none of that mattered to him. What mattered was that the man who had once been a part of his life was now getting a real chance to turn his life around. That was enough. When Michael visited Mr. Thompson at the rehabilitation center a week later, he could see the change in the man. Mr. Thompson looked healthier, his eyes less clouded by the weight of the years on the streets. He was sitting in the lounge, reading a book when Michael walked in. The moment Mr. Thompson saw him, his face broke into a genuine smile, one that seemed to radiate hope. "Michael, I can't believe this is real," Mr. Thompson said, his voice full of emotion. "When you said you were going to help me, I thought it was just talk. But now, here I am, getting a second chance. I can't thank you enough." Michael sat down beside him, a calm smile crossing his face. "You've earned it, Mr. Thompson. You've always been there for others, and now it's your time to get back on your feet." They spent the next hour talking about everything, about the old days when Michael used to ride the bus, about the struggles Mr. Thompson had faced, and about the hope that had slowly begun to return to his life. Michael could tell that the change wasn't just physical, it was in the way Mr. Thompson carried himself now, and the way he spoke about the future. "Michael, I don't know what I would have done without you," Mr. Thompson said, his voice full of gratitude. "I spent years thinking I was just forgotten, like I didn't matter anymore. But you came back for me. You didn't forget. You didn't give up." Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've always mattered, Mr. Thompson. You've always mattered to me. It's easy to forget people when they aren't in front of you every day, but that doesn't mean they don't have an impact. You were part of my story, and I'm here to make sure you get a new chapter in yours." Later that day, Michael introduced Mr. Thompson to a few of the professionals who would help him transition back into society, a job placement specialist, a counselor, and even a financial advisor to help him manage his new income once he was back on his feet. Michael had set everything in motion, and it was up to Mr. Thompson to embrace the change. "Now," Michael said with a grin, "this is where the real work begins. But I know you can do it. You've got more strength in you than you know." Over the next few weeks, Mr. Thompson began to show signs of real progress. He started attending job interviews, slowly gaining the confidence he had lost over the years. Michael checked in on him regularly, offering encouragement and advice when needed. But it was clear that Mr. Thompson was doing the hard work himself, that he was determined to rebuild his life, step by step. Then, one day, Michael received a call from Mr. Thompson. His voice was filled with excitement, and Michael could hear the joy in his words. "Michael, I did it. I got the job. I'm going to be driving for the local transit company again. Not a bus this time, but I'm still behind the wheel. I'm back, Michael. I'm back. Tears welled up in Michael's eyes as he listened to Mr. Thompson's voice crack with emotion. It was a moment that Michael knew he would never forget, the day Mr. Thompson took back his life. That's amazing, Mr. Thompson, Michael said, his voice full of pride. I knew you could do it. I'm so proud of you. For Michael, this moment was far more rewarding than any championship he had ever won. Helping Mr. Thompson regain his life wasn't about fame, fortune, or recognition. It was about making a difference in someone's life, someone who had made a difference in his own. The shock of Michael's decision to help Mr. Thompson had rippled through the community, the media, and the public. It wasn't just a story about a famous athlete helping a homeless man. It was a story about humanity, about the power of compassion, and about how even in a world full of distractions, one person could make a difference, if only they chose to. The morning sun filtered softly through the blinds of the small room at the rehabilitation center, casting a warm, golden glow over the space. Mr. Thompson sat on his bed, his hands clasped together as he gazed out the window, lost in thought. He could hardly believe how far he had come in such a short time. It felt like a lifetime ago that he had been on the streets, struggling to survive, his world a blur of survival instincts and day-to-day despair. But now, with the help of Michael Jordan and the resources that had been made available to him, Mr. Thompson was starting to find himself again. His new job at the local transit company was more than just a paycheck, it was a symbol of his resurgence. The work wasn't glamorous, but it didn't matter. It was steady, it gave him a purpose, and it reminded him that he still had value, that he was still a part of the world, still capable of contributing. Mr. Thompson had also started taking better care of himself. With the help of the counseling services Michael had arranged, he had begun addressing some of the emotional baggage that had weighed him down for years. He was slowly starting to heal, both physically and mentally. His body, once frail and worn from years of hardship, was regaining strength. His mind, once clouded by despair, was beginning to clear. Every day felt like a small victory. And every night, before he went to bed, Mr. Thompson would look at the photo Michael had given him, a picture from their high school days, when Michael had been just a young boy riding the bus to school. He had placed it on his nightstand as a reminder of how far he had come, of the people who had once believed in him, and the person he was becoming again. It had been several months since Michael had found him, and the transformation was nothing short of remarkable. Mr. Thompson now had his own apartment, a small but cozy place just a few blocks away from the transit company where he worked. It wasn't much, but it was his. The freedom he felt from having a roof over his head and a job to go to every day gave him a sense of independence he hadn't experienced in years. One day, as he walked to his car after his shift, Mr. Thompson's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from Michael. "Hey, Mr. Thompson, how's everything going? I wanted to check in and see how you're doing." Mr. Thompson smiled as he read the message. Even after all this time, Michael hadn't forgotten about him. In a world where people often forget the less fortunate, Michael's consistent support meant everything. He quickly typed a reply. "Everything's great, Michael. The job's going well, and I'm really starting to feel like myself again. I don't think I could have done this without you." A few moments later, Michael's reply came in. "I'm proud of you, Mr. Thompson. Keep it up. You've got this." Mr. Thompson chuckled to himself, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. He couldn't remember the last time someone had believed in him like that. Michael had given him the push he needed to turn his life around, but it was Mr. Thompson who had done the hard work. It was his determination, his willingness to take that first step, that had gotten him to where he was now. The next weekend, Michael invited Mr. Thompson to dinner. They met at a local restaurant, one that Michael often frequented during his visits to Wilmington. As they sat across from each other, enjoying a meal, the conversation flowed easily. It was a conversation not just about Mr. Thompson's progress, but about life, about memories, and about the importance of resilience. You know, Michael, Mr. Thompson said between bites, I never thought I'd be sitting here like this. When you first found me on the streets, I thought my life was over. I didn't think I had anything left. But now, I feel like I've got a second chance. You've earned it, Michael replied, his voice steady and sincere. You never gave up on others, even when you were struggling. That's what makes you different. And I knew, from the moment I found you, that you had it in you to come back. You just needed someone to remind you. Mr. Thompson smiled, his eyes filling with gratitude. I'll never forget what you did for me, Michael. You didn't just give me money or a handout. You gave me something far more valuable. You gave me hope. And that's more than anyone can ever ask for. The two men sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Michael had always been a man of action, someone who had never hesitated to take the lead on the court, but today, he felt a deeper sense of satisfaction than he ever had after any game. This wasn't about winning a championship. This was about the kind of victory that mattered most, the kind that changed a life. As they finished their meal, Michael stood up and extended his hand to Mr. Thompson. I'm proud of you, Mr. Thompson. This is just the beginning. Keep pushing forward. I know you'll continue to do great things. Mr. Thompson stood as well, shaking Michael's hand firmly. Thank you, Michael. You've given me a second chance, and I won't waste it. As the two men left the restaurant together, Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment that was different from the high of winning a basketball game. This was real. This was lasting. Mr. Thompson's story had come full circle. From the streets to a second chance, his journey wasn't just a testament to his own strength and resilience, but to the power of one person's willingness to reach out and make a difference. Michael had given Mr. Thompson the tools to rebuild his life, but it was Mr. Thompson's determination and effort that had made the difference. And for Michael, that was the true measure of success.